Hello everyone, my name is Rebecca Ormo. Today I'm going to be presenting on the topic of non-governmental organizations' role in disasters. Throughout the presentation, I want to cover three main objectives, which are understanding non-governmental organizations' role in the United States, understanding the roles of NGOs in terms of disaster prevention, and lastly, understanding relationships among public agencies and NGOs. Firstly, we're going to address the question of what really is an NGO. An NGO is a non governmental organization which is mainly a voluntary group that operates in order to further their mission but is independent from the government. They typically address a certain cause and take many forms from small community groups to very large international organizations. Now we're going to go more specifically into NGOs and disasters. NGOs are crucial in humanitarian relief and disaster risk reduction, which we're going to call DRR. In terms of an international and local level, NGOs focus on saving lives and advancing social and policy change. Common services provided by NGOs in disasters include providing shelter during emergencies, search and rescue missions alongside providing food and aid, healthcare, counseling for those affected by disaster, aid in home restoration and repair after disaster alongside preparations before the disaster strikes, and lastly, emergency communications during and after the disaster. So now shifting more into the topic of NGOs' roles in disaster reduction, I'll touch on these three important roles. The first being NGOs as first responders. Thousands of NGOs quickly respond to disaster. Disaster-focused NGOs often provide an assessment report, which is a situational report that explains what is going on, how many are affected, what food and non-food items are needed by the survivors, and what actions need to be taken by whom and where, which is extremely crucial. The second would be NGOs supporting policy implementation, which describes how NGOs contribute to DRR policy development, mainly because while politicians are the ones responsible for overseeing processes such as drafting policies, NGOs have a vested interest in promoting inclusive policy, which may not be a top priority in many developing countries. Lastly, the role of NGOs in promoting community-based DRR, as NGOs actively encourage involvement of local communities. The final point I'd like to go over is the relationship between public agencies and NGOs. Government agencies will often contract nonprofits to provide essential services. An example of this is how the American Red Cross assists communities and government agencies throughout disasters. However, conflicts sometimes arise between the two, mainly due to miscommunications, like there being too many NGOs responding to a certain event. An example of this is Hurricane Andrew, as too many agencies moved into the disaster zone to provide housing relief, but ultimately it led to confusion as officials were never asked about the state of homes before the repairs began. That's all I have for the topic, and I hope you all got to learn a little bit about the roles of NGOs in disaster situations, and thank you.